I'm doing a screen recording to help you with your first assignment. Many of our assignments will come from the other book, but this assignment is actually out of your Using MIS 2013 book. If you'll turn to page 482, you'll see Chapter 3, 3-1, and it continues over to page 483. So what we're going to do is, to start with, and I've already entered some of this, so I'm not spending most of your time entering into data into Excel, but you'll insert the data from the example and the figure on page 483 into an Excel document. With the exception, there's going to be some blank fields because those are going to be calculations. Right now, in the example that you see the actual values on there, but we're going to actually calculate those values. This assignment helps you learn some of the basics of Excel, how to format, how to put in simple formulas and make business decisions from those formulas. So to start with, they have you do some formatting. The initial heading, resort bicycle rental, they want those cells merged, and so in the first bullet point it says the top heading is 20-point Calibri font. It is centered in the spreadsheet, cells A through H1. So in an Excel spreadsheet there's a grid, and looks like I'm going to remove that first one. I had a blank row up there. Alright, so there's a grid, A1, B1, C1, D1, and so forth. So we're going all the way out to H. And once you go out to H, you can then merge those. Different versions of Excel, your merge may look a little bit different, how you go about merging. This is using the ribbon. This is Office 365 that I'm using, and I happen to be on a Mac. So every version will be a little bit different, but they'll all operate very similar. Alright, so I'm going to say merge and center, and I'm going to change the font size to 20, and I'm going to bold it. Next, they asked for us to do something similar to the second heading. We're going to make it 18-point italics, centered in cells A2 through H2. So again, A2 through H2. I'm going to merge and center, and I'm going to change the font to 18 and italicize. The column headings are set in 11-point Calibri bold. They are centered in their cells, and the text wraps. So now they want the cells here, the header cells, to be wrapped. So wrap text and make it 11-point, bold, centered. So make the first two rows of the spreadsheet similar to that in figure AE. Choose your own colors for backgrounds and type. However, place the current date so that it's centered in cells C3, C4, C5. So I have the date entered into C3, and they want it to be merged between these three cells here. Actually, we're going to center among these four cells here. And notice that when you type in your date, it may automatically format this. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and go down to Format Cell, and we're going to choose a date format that looks best for us. So I'm going to scroll down, choose how March 14, 2001 is set up, hit OK, and now you'll see that my date formatted more like what's on their document. All right, they've changed their background colors, done all sorts of things there. To change background or to change font colors, you can highlight it like that. You can also go to right click and go to Format Cell. You can change font, border, fill, everything in here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with formatting. I'll show you on one formatting, but you can take it from there. All right. We're going to outline the cells as shown in the figure. Outline the cells as shown in the figure. They're just talking about the ones we were just talking about. Again, format cells, border. You can put borders around things like this. Hit OK. You'll notice that it has borders. I'm going to remove the center one if you just wanted one border and so forth. But I'll let you format that how you want. Alright, this is probably the part that most new to Excel struggle with, is how to insert formulas correctly. So they want us to calculate the cost of the current inventory in cell D5 through D10. In that cell, if you click on that cell, there's a little formula location up here beside FX. If you put the equal sign, you can then click on the B5 and either place. You can click in either place, and I'm going to say times and click on C5. So B5 times C5 and hit return. So it created the calculation. Now I could do that for every one of these, or I could copy and paste in every one of these, but the easiest way to have this formula carry throughout the cells is to grab the bottom right hand corner and drag it down. And essentially all it did was copy that cell, but changing the reference so that it referenced the line that it is currently on. Oops. Hit escape to undo. It tried to create a new reference when I clicked in there. So now we need to format the values so that they match what's seen in the figure on 483. For one, these are just general numbers. So we're going to change the general number formatting to currency. It's also going to add the trailing decimals or the cent sign. We don't really need those in this example. So we can decrease the number of decimal places. You can do that here in the ribbon icon, or most of these same items that show up in the ribbon icon you can get through Format Cell. So decimal places we can remove right there. And the same thing with these values here, and we'll do it this time. We'll go to Format Cell and we'll choose currency and remove those zeros and hit OK. So now we've got the cost of our current inventory, and we want to figure out the revenue per bike. So we know the number of bikes on hand, and we know the total revenue. So even though the book's formula is incorrect, if you think this through, you'll know that in order to find out per bike, you just need to divide the total revenue by the number of bikes. So let's go to equals total revenue divided by, and we'll choose number on hand and hit enter. So we get 531.25. Again, we can carry that formula out throughout the whole section, and we get really odd numbers. So now we're ready to format these new cells. So we'll click and highlight. You just highlight by clicking on the top one and dragging, by the way. And we're going to format this for a currency. Notice that this $1,966.67 will change as I remove those decimals. It'll actually round up automatically. Okay, now we're ready to calculate the revenue as percent of cost of inventory. Again, the book has the calculation incorrect, but if you take the total revenue, so we're going to put in a calculation to take the total revenue and divide it by the cost of inventory, you're going to see a value. In this case, it's converted it to currency because both of these values are currency values. So it assumes our calculation will want a currency value. That's not what we want. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag out that formula so it copies through them all. And I'm going to change it to percentage by clicking on percentage. You can also do that from here as well. Or you can right click and go to Format Cells. Alright, again we have one more decimal value than what they have in the book. So we can trim that one off by using our option to take away a decimal value, or again right click and go to Format. Okay, so now we've got all of our formulas in here and the calculations match what's in the book. From here we can start making business decisions. It's one thing to create a spreadsheet, but it's another thing to learn to use the spreadsheet. So the remaining questions ask for ways in which you can make business decisions based on this spreadsheet. Remember, these values, because you're using calculations, you can come in here and you can alter and see if we increased our number of bikes on hand, how that would affect total revenue, which bikes receive the greatest number of revenue based on the number of bikes on hand or our cost of inventory. But this percentage or the revenue as percentage of cost of inventory is a very helpful statistic in helping a bike shop maybe choose what bikes to purchase additionally. So the remainder of your project, the questions relate to making those decisions. So I'll leave that up to you. But hopefully this gave you enough to really get you moving forward and get you over the hump if you're new to using an Excel spreadsheet, of how to enter the data, format, create calculations, and move from there.